Alright, hey guys, how we doing? Back with another video from Annie News. We've got some That Time Was Reincarnated as a Slime stuff to check out. We were checking out how strong is Lightspeed hero Masayuki. The unique skill, almost as strong as an ultimate. It's ridiculous, like, he just, everything goes his way. It's so bizarre. I can't wait to see how it becomes like a thing when it's building up into it. It's like him and Rimiru are going to have to fight, and then I'm intrigued to see where it goes from there, because it's been a slow build up. This is interesting, but I want to know how this ability like really functions, because it's got so much potential. It's unreal.
Who is
and he doesn't even control it either, from my understanding. It just happens.
the Lightspeed hero Masayuki?
Like, crazy.
Well, with Kazuma's luck, Ainz's charm, and Shadow's level of things just working out for him, he's pretty much your standard isekai protagonist, just in another person's story. A forced hero who now finds himself wrapped in events he can't even control anymore.
I like that.
The whole concept is actually pretty interesting, especially when we get to see just how broken his Chosen One skill really is. So, as we dive into that and the details of his past, we'll also start some of the cut content from the tournament.
Cool.
Everything from why some of his other subordinates didn't participate, all the way to the newly established Elite Four.
The Elite Four.
Let's get started. It wasn't until after Hinata had tied with
like,
Rimiru that Masayuki was now being lauded as the strongest man in the Western nations. It was as if humanity all at once shifted their faith from her to him. Likely a result of her not being perceived as all-powerful anymore. This in turn bolstered Masayuki's reputation, then fully solidified it upon the news of Orthrus's destruction. His part in that, amongst a myriad of other things, led to him being known as the hero. A title he had absolutely zero part in working towards, yet still somehow claimed for himself less than a year after being isekai'd here.
I think it's mad as well, like, they say no one's ever seen him use his sword, and I think it's because it's like he never has. He doesn't seem to have to do anything.
How then did Masayuki end up like this? Well, it all began with her. I can't really tell you her significance, but based on her appearance and the way the novel described her, I believe her presence here wasn't just coincidence.
Right.
The timing is just far too convenient. This was, however, when Masayuki was 16 years old though, so after recently being accepted into a fairly competitive high school, he was currently in the process of reinventing himself. Though already somewhat popular, he dyed his hair blonde and kept his passion for anime and manga secret. Yeah, Masayuki is apparently a super hardcore otaku.
No way.
A probable explanation to why he wasn't fazed when first getting isekai'd.
Right.
I wouldn't say Masayuki was particularly different from any other high school student though, but he was the type to have a disaster preparedness kit. A small emergency box with 3 days rations and a Swiss Army knife.
Oh, right, okay.
Unfortunately, he didn't have it here now, but it does indicate the level of caution he uses when approaching things. Fast forward to his encounter with Jinrai, and this would be where Masayuki would unlock Chosen One. One of the rarest unique skills that one could ever come across, as the power it bestowed was almost up there at the same level as ultimate skills. I mean, at the very least, it was equivalent to absolute severance and unlimited imprisonment. Two skills we know from episode 1 are capable of affecting true dragons.
Which is crazy.
If you've watched my video explaining dragons, then you'd know that this is an impressive feat not so easily accomplished. To further explain what Chosen One does though, its complete offering is broken down into 4 main smaller skills. There's Heroic Aura and Heroic Compensation, then Heroic Charm and Heroic Action.
Damn.
All work in tandem to make Masayuki a hero, and that in turn makes it as if his life is on autopilot. So, Heroic Aura is just like Demon Lord's Haki, since they both exert an overwhelming presence capable of stunning those who are weaker.
Right.
Heroic Aura isn't as lethal though, since those exposed only become awestruck by it. It makes them eager to take orders from Masayuki. Heroic Compensation is what grants Masayuki his luck, and in addition to making things work in his favor pretty much all the time, that luck extends to his attacks as well. It ensures every
Alright, so he has actually used his sword then. Okay, fair enough. Must be frustrating though, having everything just happen for you without... Surely you'd get that feeling of having absolutely no control whatsoever, and it must get annoying at some point.
He gives is a critical one. This also applies to his companions too, so whenever they attack, they too are hitting for crits as well.
Right.
It's like letting both you and your party roll nat 20 all the time. Heroic compensation also makes anything Masayuki says be perceived as positive too, so whenever faced in some sort of conflict, he can usually de-escalate it through conversation alone.
Just talking.
He
Talk
doesn't
no
even need to
jutsu,
have
my
charisma,
god.
since the words he says will automatically be perceived as amazing. Moving on to heroic charm, this stirs the hearts of those who watch him, both reducing their fear and stimulating their bravery.
Hence why
It
everyone's just
automatically
like,
makes
oh my god,
anyone
he's
who
so
sees
cool.
him instantly trust him, then want to follow him. It's an effect that also applies to those he beats in battle too. So even if there was someone trying to fight him, the only outcome after would be them trying to become his companion.
Right.
Chosen One would somehow find a way to make Masayuki win, then heroic charm would convert them into one of his faithful. Lastly, we have heroic action, which, as you may have guessed, ensures every move he makes serves as steps towards becoming a champion. Regardless of how minor a move it is, it'll always end up being perceived as amazing. Kinda like how it is with Ainz and his subordinates.
Oh yeah, they always perceive him as just...
All this was given to Masayuki on day one,
everything
but
being
given his lack
incredible.
of understanding of how the world worked,
Yeah, like, Debiurge is always like, my god, he knew the whole time that we'd need to do this, and he knew that I would do this plan now and follow it out. And I'm just like, yeah, of course, that's exactly what I wanted.
he remained
Oh my God.
oblivious to the fact that he had unlocked such power. He had just received one of the most fearsome uniques anyone in the world could possibly possess, yet was none the wiser as to what it was truly capable of. No, instead he was just forced onto the path of the hero, one from which he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. He did try and explain away all these misunderstandings, but the more he tried, the more others just came to their own assumptions. Like, when he first tried to deny being a hero to Jinrai, Jinrai instead perceived it as him just trying to keep it secret. He figured Masayuki had just recently revived, then took him to the Free Guild where he'd meet Yuki and the others. Eventually, he'd decided not to protest against those who called him a hero, but that just gave rise to the growing legend people were spreading about him. Now, it was after recruiting the American Bernie that the three of them joined together to become adventurers, resulting in the formation of Team Lightspeed. Individually, they
Okay,
weren't
so that's their
particularly
name.
skilled, but with the help of heroic compensation, those buffs made Jinrai and Bernie stronger. You see, whereas Jinrai was usually the upper C rank, with Masayuki he was potentially at the A rank.
Oh, nice. So
The
it does give them a
enhancements heroic
huge boost,
compensation
man.
gave them were not to be understated, especially when they were fighting as a team together. Of course, anything they did was all treated as Masayuki's sole accomplishment, so while at first they did start out as Team Lightspeed, eventually Masayuki inadvertently claimed the title of Lightspeed for himself, an epithet that only spread as he became the victor of several battle tournaments. He never did actually fight anyone, but the way his opponents always gave up and begged for mercy made the crowd assume he'd just hit them with one of his Lightspeed attacks.
Oh!
It became fuel to a fire.
Oh, so they think he's that fast that he's attacking them that they can't even see what's happening, when in reality he's not done anything whatsoever. Oh my god, right? Wow! That's interesting.
His
Hence
accomplishments were just
Lightspeed.
too far gone now. Of course, this was all thanks to Chosen One, since the skills making him a hero were active all the time. They were passives impossible to
Right, yeah,
resist
so he
unless you had a
can't
unique
switch
skill
it
of your
off.
own. It's not like Masayuki could even turn it off, since unfortunately for him, he didn't know how to. So, while at first such accomplishments were troublesome to the identity he was trying to make, over time he found it was easier to just accept being the hero.
It'd be interesting if the turnaround was Rimuru finds a way to actually switch it off and then see how everyone that he has affected with his ability then acts around him. Like, would everyone all of a sudden be like, wait a minute, why the hell am I following this guy? What the hell? Blah, blah, blah.
With Chosen One being this prominent part of his life now, it was far easier to just go with the flow
I
than
like the
fight
shield,
against
that's cool.
it. Obviously, he wasn't confident in anything he did, but he could at least pretend to live up to the expectations the people around him created for him.
Right, okay.
This brings us now to Rimiru's first meeting with Masayuki, which, as we saw, didn't go to impress Rimiru.
No.
He could tell Masayuki was an otherworlder due to his faint heroic aura, but
So, is the reason he's not affected... okay,
rather
never
than
mind.
intimidating, it was barely noticeable. His anxious demeanor also made Rimuru second-guess whether he was truly powerful or not, but after remembering how he was the one who took down Orthrus, such a feat wasn't something one could easily bluff their way through. His behavior and accomplishments were just so very contradicting to each other, enough to make Rimuru genuinely confused as to who he was dealing with. That's when Yuki would mention he too was curious as to Masayuki's power, since while he did know of Masayuki's accomplishments as well, he also had never seen him fight before. He only knew of his reputation of never losing against a monster before.
Right.
This was actually a topic more serious than the anime made it seem, since an entire meeting was cut focusing specifically on Masayuki.
Oh.
You see, it was late at night, right after the banquet, and Rimiru was holding an impromptu emergency meeting for it. He wanted to ask if anyone would be willing to join the battle tournament. So, as an open invitation to pretty much everyone, it had garnered the interest of not just Benimaru, Shion, and Diablo, but also Geld, Soe, and even Hakuro.
Right.
Of course, we already know why those first three couldn't compete, but the others
Too powerful.
also had valid reasons too. Like, for Soe, participation just wasn't possible. As the man in charge of running surveillance, he wouldn't be able to compete while at the same time keep track
Surveying,
of
yeah, like, that doesn't make
Not
sense.
to mention it didn't make sense for Tempest's #1 covert agent to put himself in public like that. Fortunately, Rimuru did have something else in mind for him, as this would be where he would promote him to the head of the Oniwaban.
Ooh, what's
Tempest's
that?
equivalent of the CIA, serving
Right,
as the
cool.
intelligence group in charge of all spy operations.
Alright.
It was a group named after an old secret agency from the samurai era.
Oh.
This
very
would be the
cool.
new faction Soe was in charge of, and his own personal team would be known as the Kuriyami. Of course, all this was just an excuse to get him not to participate too, since just like Shion, Diablo, and Benimaru, he
Rimiru's really good at coming up with excuses for them, and just to like boost their ego. Like, what are they good at? Let's make them think that they need to do that even more.
too was
Like,
way too strong for the tournament. It was an excuse Rimuru pre-planned right alongside the Elite Four.
The Elite Four.
This was another ceremonial title not entirely important, but cool sounding enough to make the three of them think it was.
Very cool.
Benimaru was designated
I
the
think
leader
Pokemon
since, as
straight
we've seen
away.
before, he's the sole person Rimuru deems capable of taking over for him. It's not like he'll actually have to do anything, but the position of being leader was enough to get him on board with it. The other two accepted their lesser positions as a challenge, while the vacant #4 spot was declared available to anyone who wanted to compete for it. The obvious choice was of course Hakuro, but he
Obviously got to.
unfortunately was already busy that day. Due to an already planned date with Momoji, Rimuru knew he wouldn't be able to.
Fair
So,
enough.
as much as he wanted to see Hakuro gauge the talents of Masayuki, Rimuru unfortunately had to settle for someone else. This left only Geld, Gobta, and Ranga, who, as we know, are the ones that did end up competing. Ranga wasn't able to on his own, but after a bit of craftiness on his part,
Very
he
cool.
did somehow
I love
find
it.
himself as part of it.
So cool that he
The
came
other
out.
two were given by
I love the Ragnar just jumped out, and then they did the whole kind of cheaty thing where like Ragnar went out of bounds, but then it was like resummon, and it's like, oh, actually, technically not allowed.
ice straight to the quarterfinals, while the 300 other entrants needed to compete in a battle royale to join them. All 300 were split into 6 massive groups of 50, then told to fight until only one was left standing.
Right.
It was the fastest way of
I
determining
thought it
the
was from
finalists,
Eminence, but that was-
one that saw entrants from all sorts of people.
God, I miss
Lastly,
Eminence and
Diablo
Shadow.
was assigned as the ref, since in addition to seeming like an unbiased party who could judge fairly, he was also in good standing with the press.
That's
So, by
true.
placing
Yeah.
a
All right.
familiar
Cool.
face as the officiator, the whole tournament was likely
Yeah.
to be received
That makes sense. 'Cause obviously, they saved them all from that thing, and it's like report on this. They've seen it with their own eyes, so they're obviously going to be like very trusting of Diablo to be. That is so cool.
in a more
Ah!
positive light. It was the final order Rimuru gave before sending everyone off for the night. This brings us now to the day of the tournament, which was packed to capacity due to no small effort from Mjolnir. He had somehow managed to fill each and every one of the 50,000 seats available. This was partly due to the accessibility of it all, but mostly a huge testament to the capabilities of him. Now, as for what I mean when I say the Colosseum is accessible, well, Rimuru had made it so that pretty much everyone could watch. Regardless of whether you were poor or rich, the tiered seating of the stadium meant there was a spot for everyone. It opened up seats to those who normally wouldn't ever be able to watch a show like this. This is a huge contrast to the tournaments in Inglesia, since to see one there, you had to be rich. You see, whereas only the wealthy were allowed to watch there, not only could the common folk be in the stadium in Tempest, but the magically created screens meant that everyone had a prime view.
Everyone. Cool.
The
Love
whole
that,
thing
yeah.
was a massive boost in PR for Tempest as a whole. As for the arena within the stadium, everything was built to withstand even the most intense of fights. Whereas regular rock was around 300 times as solid as concrete, Rimuru had gone and used magically infused rock.
Cool.
He imbued magicules into the very foundation, enhancing its hardness to be over 10,000 times that of concrete.
Damn.
Combine this with multiple layers
That's some
extending
hard
6
rock.
feet deep, and what Rimuru had built was effectively more durable than a nuclear shelter. It could easily resist the most powerful of both physical and magical attacks. Now, as for the measures Rimuru implemented to protect the audience, 2 magical barriers were set in place around
Didn't even
them.
think of that.
One blocked magicules from getting in or out, while the other was pretty much a portable version of Uriel. Should an ability seem like it was gonna hit the audience, then Rimuru could remotely trigger Uriel's absolute defense to negate it.
Right.
It ensured no matter what happened, nothing would affect the audience.
Cool.
This brings us now to the tournament itself, which is something I think I'm gonna save until it's finally done next episode.
Alright, makes sense.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna see Masayuki lift a finger, but if anyone can do it, then maybe Gobta can.
Gobta!
It's just chosen one
I
is so
believe.
crazy powerful. Unless you have a unique skill stronger or an ultimate skill yourself, you're probably not gonna remain unaffected by it like how Rimuru was. So perhaps Gobta could come out clutch and win the tournament, but with the way things are going, I highly doubt it.
I want to see this guy
Anyway.
fight Rimiru.
That's pretty much all that I got for you today. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, then consider leaving a like and subscribing. I've got a special video planned next, and after that some prep videos for ReZero and Danmachi.
Oh my god! Yo! Yes, when ReZero comes back, Danmachi comes back. There's gonna be so many stuff to
But anyway, as always, thank you so much
Exciting
for
times!
watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do.
So,
Until
until
next
next time. Ciao. Damn. Really cool. Really cool. So that's why they call him. That's so awesome. Everyone thinks he's just that fast because they can't perceive how. But he's not even doing anything. It's like, ah, love it. Love that. And yeah, so when ReZero is back, Danmachi's back, he's going to do the videos and that special video. So I think next week it's going to be the because he always does it, doesn't he? The seasonal Isekai and fantasies to look out for. So I think that'll be that one. We can check that out because I want to know what's coming back, get reminders and that. When's the Overlord movie? Oh, so many questions. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, I want to be able to watch patron-only reactions, like the original Dragon Ball series. Link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask. Help support channels. Greatly appreciate thank you for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? If you guys think of this, click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys next time.